Hey guys, welcome back to more homeowner association stories. In this video, a vegan HOA Karen completely loses it because of my barbecue party. Let's dive right into the video. This story is titled, "Am I the a-hole for buying the ugliest door possible after my HOA refused to fix my rotting door but still required approval?" So I've lived in my townhome for about 5 years now. It's a nice enough place, 3 bedrooms, decent kitchen and a small backyard. When I bought it, I knew there was an HOA, but the fees seemed reasonable for what they supposedly covered: exterior maintenance, lawn care, snow removal, etc. You know, the usual stuff. For those who are not familiar with townhomes, they are basically houses that share walls with neighbors on one or both sides. My HOA specifically covers the exterior maintenance because all the homes share the same exterior aesthetic, makes sense on paper, and keeps the neighborhood looking uniform and property values steady. The trouble started about 4 months ago. I noticed that the bottom edge of my front door was starting to rot. Not a huge deal at first, just a small soft spot, but over the weeks it got worse. Water was clearly getting in somehow, and the wood was deteriorating. By month 2, there was visible damage and the door was becoming drafty. With winter approaching, I knew I needed to get it fixed. Since the HOA covers exterior maintenance, I dutifully filled out their maintenance request form, included photos of the damage and sent it in. I figured it would be a simple fix for them. Damaged exterior element, clear responsibility on their part. 2 weeks went by with no response. I sent a follow-up email and another week passed. Finally, I got a reply that simply said, "Your request has been received and is under review." Another month passed, the door was getting worse. I could now see daylight through the bottom corner and my heating bill was going up. I sent another email, this time with more urgency, explaining that this was becoming a serious issue affecting my home's energy efficiency. Well, 3 days later, I got a response. "After review, the HOA board has determined that front doors do not fall within our definition of exterior maintenance as outlined in section 7.3 of the HOA covenants. Homeowners are responsible for their own doors, windows and related fixtures." I was pissed. I immediately pulled out my HOA covenant documents and read through section 7.3. It was vague at best, talking about structural exterior elements without specifically including or excluding doors. I wrote back pointing this out, but received an even shorter reply. "The board's decision is final. Front doors are the homeowner's responsibility." Fine, whatever, I would just replace the door myself. I started researching replacement doors, found a decent one that matched the neighborhood aesthetic and was about to place the door when I remembered something else from the HOA rules: any exterior changes required approval. So I sent another email: "Since I need to replace my front door at my own expense, please confirm that I don't need HOA approval for this." The response came the next day: "All exterior changes, including door replacements, require submission of an exterior change request form and board approval before work can begin." I was seeing red at this point. They would not fix my door because it was not considered exterior enough for their maintenance responsibilities, but I still needed their permission to replace it because it was exterior enough to require approval? The hypocrisy was astounding. I called the HOA office directly, hoping to speak to a human being who might see reason. "HOA office, how can I help you?" "Hey, I'm calling about my front door. I submitted a maintenance request weeks ago because it's rotting, but was told that doors are not covered under exterior maintenance. Well, now I'm being told that I need approval to replace it myself. This does not make sense." "Sir, the policies are very clear. Front doors are the homeowner's responsibility, but as they affect the community aesthetic, any changes require board approval." "So you want to control what my door looks like, but I have to pay for it?" "The HOA has standards to maintain. If you have an issue with the policies, you are welcome to bring it up at the next board meeting." "When is that?" "Second Tuesday of next month at 7 p.m. But these policies have been in place for years and are unlikely to change." I hung up, fuming. The next board meeting was weeks away and my door was only getting worse. I looked at the calendar. The overnight temperatures were already dipping below freezing. I could not wait, and that is when I had my idea. If they wanted to be difficult about this, I could play that game too. If they were gonna make me pay for the door while still demanding control over its appearance, I was gonna make them regret it. I spent that night browsing doors online, but instead of looking for something that would blend in with the neighborhood, I specifically looked for the ugliest, most outlandish door I could find. And I found a doozy. It was a bright purple door with a gaudy gold pattern that looked like something from a Las Vegas casino. It had a stained glass window insert shaped like a peacock. It was hideous, ostentatious, and exactly what I was looking for. I filled out the exterior change request form, attached the product photos and specs, and submitted it. I knew they would reject it, but that was part of my plan. I wanted to force the issue. To my surprise, 3 days later, I got a response. Your door replacement request has been denied. Please submit an alternative request with a door that matches the existing neighborhood aesthetic. Solid earth tones, no decorative elements. I responded immediately with, as you've determined that my front door is my responsibility to maintain and replace, and as there's nothing in the HOA covenant that specifically restricts door colors or designs other than a vague reference to community standards, I will be proceeding with the installation of my chosen door. The current door is rotting and creating an energy efficiency emergency. Please provide specific covenant language that prohibits my selected door if you wish to maintain your denial. The response was quick. The HOA board has broad discretion in maintaining community standards. Your proposed door is clearly inappropriate. Proceeding without approval will result in fines. I replied with just one line, please provide the specific covenant language that gives you this authority over door aesthetics. There was no response for 2 days. Then I got the following email saying, please refer to section 12.1 regarding community aesthetic standards. Well, I looked it up. Section 12.1 was indeed about aesthetics, but was so vaguely worded it could mean almost anything. It basically said that changes visible from common areas should maintain the so-called harmonious design of the community. No specific restrictions, no color palettes, nothing concrete. I decided to push harder. I replied, Section 12.1 provides no specific restrictions that would prohibit my door. Unless you can provide specific language, I will proceed with installation next week due to the emergency nature of the deterioration. The next day, I got a response from someone new, apparently the HOA president. We understand your frustration with the situation. After reviewing your case, we can offer a compromise. The HOA will cover 50% of the cost of a new door, provided it meets our standard design guidelines. Please let us know if this is acceptable. Too little, too late. I was beyond compromising at this point. I responded, thank you for showing your offer. However, as I've already purchased the door shown in my request and as there's no specific covenant language prohibiting it, I'll be proceeding with the installation this weekend. That was a lie, I hadn't bought it yet. But I did immediately after sending that email. The installation happened the following Saturday, and by Sunday morning I had 3 voicemails and 5 emails from various HOA board members. By Monday, there was a violation notice taped to my door, my beautiful hideous purple door, informing me of a $100 daily fine until the door was replaced with an approved design. I responded with a certified letter from a lawyer friend who owed me a favor. The letter pointed out the vague language in the covenant and the inconsistent application of exterior definitions and warned that selective enforcement could constitute a breach of their fiduciary duty. It ended with a request to waive all fines and a demand for reimbursement of the door costs since their initial denial of my maintenance request was arguably improper. The fines disappeared from my online account 2 days later. A week after that, I received a letter stating that after review, my door had been conditionally approved as an exception to usual standards. But the best part, 3 of my neighbors who had been dealing with similar HOA hypocrisy have since installed their own statement doors. One is bright teal, another one is cherry red, and the third has an intricate carved design. The HOA cannot fight us all without establishing clear and consistent standards, which they've them now forced to do at the next board meeting. So Reddit, am I the jerk for buying the ugliest door I could find to spite my HOA and teach them a lesson about their hypocritical enforcement of rules? And yeah guys, let me know in the comments what you think about this. Comment number 1 said, everyone sucks here, your HOA sounds terrible but you are also being petty. They offered to pay half the cost of a normal door, which is more than they had to according to the rules. You were just too caught up in your revenge fantasy to accept a reasonable solution. Comment number 2, you're the a-hole. Bro, you're literally the guy who ruins it for everyone else. I paid good money to live somewhere with standards and now you are out here with your purple monstrosity taking all our property values so you could have your little moment. Slow clap for you. Comment number 3, not the a-hole. HOAs are notorious for this kind of thing. They wanted to control your property without taking responsibility for it. You taught them that they cannot have their cake and eat it too. And the next one is titled HOA Karen loses it because I had a barbecue party in my backyard. So my name is Sebastian and I recently married my high school sweetheart Loranda, and we bought a house about 6 months ago in a peaceful suburban neighborhood. There's a homeowners association and it seems to be a close-knit community. My wife and I are both easygoing and have already started to make some friends in the neighborhood. I am an architect at a firm about 20 minutes from our home, and Loranda works at a bakery/cafe. We both enjoy entertaining and we're pleased that our home gives us the space to actually entertain. Now that summer has arrived, it's the perfect opportunity for outdoor grilling. In the spring we used our grill a few times and our neighbor Karen, who is also the president of the HOA, made a few remarks about us eating meat. We mostly brushed them off. After all, an HOA cannot dictate what people eat. We decided to host a party and invite some family and friends to enjoy our backyard with us. There are rules in our neighborhood about noise, property maintenance, fences, etc., but nothing about barbecuing. We sent out the invitations and then purchased some burgers and sausages to have on the grill. Loranda baked some cupcakes and we knew there would be plenty of other desserts and sides that our guests would be bringing. The day of our barbecue arrived and we were blessed with great weather. We had decided to hold it at lunchtime, and before long we had the food on the barbecue and tables lined up with salads, rolls, cookies and squares. Everyone was enjoying themselves, taking beverages out of the coolers that we had filled to the brim with ice. They were chatting away, meeting new people or catching up with ones they had not seen in a while. I was behind the grill making sure that everything was cooked to perfection. Some of my friends were gathering around talking to me at the same time. We were discussing the latest soccer game when suddenly Karen, our next door neighbor, burst through the gate that separated our properties. "I demand that you stop this atrocious act of murder," she said. "What?" asked my friend Steve. "Are you drunk? You're not making any sense. No one was murdered here, we're just enjoying a party." "No one has been murdered? Really? How can you say that?" "Let me handle this," I whispered to my friends. "Karen," I said quietly, "would you like something to eat? I know you don't enjoy meat, but we have some salads that I think you might enjoy." "You really think trying to feed me is gonna distract me from the reason that I came?" asked Karen. "I demand that you stop grilling at once. You're all murderers if you eat that." "Karen," I said, "I respect that you choose to live a vegan lifestyle. However, you can't force other people to live it if they don't want to." "Firstly," said Karen, "the music is too loud." "We can turn that down," I said, and headed over to the sound system that we had brought outside for the occasion. "And the smell of the meat is bothering me," said Karen. "I'm sorry about that," I replied, "but the grilling is almost done and then the odors will diminish too. I'll even make sure the tops stay on the dish when someone is not taking food out." "You need to stop the party. It's an atrocity. You're condoning the murder of innocent animals," shouted Karen. "Karen," I said once again, "I don't want to debate our lifestyles. It's a beautiful day, let's just enjoy it. My family and friends are here to enjoy a party, and that's what I want us to be able to do. I promise we'll be finished before the curfew." The majority of the people at the party had stopped what they were doing and were gathered around watching the confrontation between Karen and myself. By now, Loranda, who had been in the house making coffee, had come out and stood by my side. "Karen, would you like us to take a walk?" asked Loranda. "Maybe get away from this for a while. We can head down to the cafe. We have an amazing vegan carrot cake that I'd love for you to try, and our coffee beans are all responsibly sourced." "I'm not leaving here until everyone stops celebrating the death of animals," said Karen. "We're not celebrating that," I said. "We're just eating. We're sorry you're not enjoying the party. However, we would like to spend time with our friends and family. Standing here arguing about our lifestyle won't get us anywhere, so can we please ask you to leave us be?" "No, I'm not going anywhere," said Karen. She began to wander around, staring at anyone who had a plate in their hand. Everyone watched in horror as she grabbed a burger from our friend Katie's plate and flung it into the garbage. "Stop that," I said. "You cannot just go around stealing food and throwing it away." Karen laughed in my face and then proceeded to throw away burgers and sausages from other guests' plates. "Apologize for the murders you committed," said Karen. "Eating meat is not a crime," said Loranda. "We know it's not for everyone and we respect that, but if you don't leave, I'm gonna need to call the police on you. I don't want this to escalate to that, but if you don't stop harassing our guests, I don't see another solution." "You would call the police on me?" said Karen. "When you're the ones who are committing the crime. Talk about injustice. But go ahead and call them, then you will see who's in the right." Lorenda walked away from us and made the call. I could hear in her voice how upset she was. I wanted nothing more than to be able to give my wife a hug and tell her that everything would be alright before she started to cry because our barbecue party was being ruined by our neighbor. Karen has actually only lived in the neighborhood for a few months longer than Lorenda and I, and my understanding is that she got the job of president of the HOA because it was a job that not many people wanted, and Karen was so demanding that people did not want to run against her in the election either. 10 minutes later, the police car pulled into our driveway. Karen was screaming and yelling. Since the police had been called, some of our friends had tried to help Lorenda and I reason with Karen, but it was to no avail. Some had even begun to film the incident, suspecting that Karen might try to turn the tables on us. "If you don't stop this barbecue and get rid of all the meat and never do anything like this again," shouted Karen, "then I'm going to have no choice but to fine you. I could even get you evicted from your home." While I did not think that Karen had actually anything to back herself up other than her position as president of the HOA, her threats were difficult to hear. The whole situation was very upsetting. The worst part was that even if we knew we didn't do anything wrong, that we might have to fight to stay in our home. And Karen would still be our neighbor. The thought of possibly deciding to sell to not have to deal with her also felt impossible because we had worked so hard to choose a place that both Lorenda and I would enjoy and could make it feel like our own. All this after having lived in our apartments for years. "What's the problem here?" asked the officers approaching us. "The problem," shouted Karen, "is that these people are having a barbecue and are consuming our beloved animals. It is murder and it has to be punished." "Ma'am," said the officer, whose name tag read Rudy, "barbecuing is not illegal, nor is eating meat." "Whose property is this?" asked the officer by the name of Smithens. "It is ours, officer," I said. "I'm Sebastian Jenkins and this is my wife Lorenda. We were having our barbecue when Karen came over and started threatening us because we were grilling meat. She refuses to leave." "Ma'am, can we speak with you?" said Officer Rudy. They pulled Karen aside by herself, but even though it was meant to be a private conversation, we could all hear it because Karen was not backing down. "Ma'am," said Officer Smithens, "if you don't want us to arrest you, you're going to need to leave peacefully now." "I'm not going anywhere until this atrocious murder stops," said Karen. "Let me guess, you're a carnivore too. You condone what they are doing and are letting your personal beliefs stop you from doing your job." "Ma'am," said Officer Smithens, "we have nothing against people who want to be vegan. Everyone can enjoy their lifestyle, but they cannot let it interfere with the right to the same by everyone else." "Murderer!" shouted Karen, and she spit in Officer Smithens' face. "That's it," said Officer Smithens. "You're under arrest for disturbing the peace and assaulting an officer. Turn around and put your hands behind your back." "I won't," shouted Karen. "I've done nothing wrong. It's all your fault. You're the ones who are murderers. I'm just trying to stand up for innocent animals that cannot speak for themselves." It was something to watch the police have to pull their taser out and point it at Karen so that she would simply settle down enough to be arrested. I worried that they might even have to use it on her. She was still shouting as they took her to the police car. After that, our party ended quickly because no one felt like celebrating. While none of us at the party had been harmed, we were all shaken. Lorenda finally could not hold her emotions inside anymore and began to cry as I wrapped my arms around her and held her tight. "Now what?" she asked. "I don't know," I answered, "but we will find a way to get through it." It didn't take long for news of Karen's behavior and arrest to spread through the neighborhood. Some of the other residents even began to circulate a petition to get her removed as the HOA president. They had dealt with her awful behaviors for too long, and her disrespect towards even authority like the police was simply becoming too much. Karen returned home, but was quiet. She was still going to have to attend a hearing about her behavior, including the assault on the officers and resisting arrest. She was removed as president of the HOA, and a few days later we saw a for sale sign go up in front of her house. That was a relief. A few months later though, and finally Karen has moved away, and we are all feeling better about the situation. We are actually planning a community barbecue with everyone, including the HOA, to bring people together and have a more community-based feel to our area. We all want to work together while respecting each other's beliefs. "Are you sure we want to do this?" asked Lorenda. "Host the barbecue? Maybe we should have just brought a cake and salad and gone somewhere else." "You've heard people talking about our last barbecue," I answered. "While it was a disaster, it also serves as a reminder that harassment won't be accepted in this community. I'm just worried that someone decides to start something again and we end up having a ruined celebration once again," replied Lorenda. "It's gonna be alright," I answered. Everyone backed us, and that is why Karen is gone now. Andrew, who bought her house, seems nice and apparently loves ribeye steak, burgers and anything else that can be grilled. I understood Lorenda's reluctance to be the host, but in the end, everything was fine. We had great music, great company and delicious food. The whole community cannot wait to celebrate again and spend more time getting to know one another. We got through a difficult time in our lives and have come out on top. And yeah guys, before we end the video, we will read a story from Petty Revenge. This one is titled "Guy Comes In Seconds Before Closing and Gets Turned Away." So I work at an urgent care who takes patients up until closing, which is 10 p.m. So as I am locking the door last night, a guy and his 3 kids yank it open as I have my hand on the lock. So I sit back down to register this final group of people, and he finds a friend of his in the lobby. Well, of course, the first thing he does is walk over to have a conversation, not even starting the registration process. So then I take a look at the clock, 10:01, and he is not moving. So I shut off my computer and shut the lights off, which gets his attention. He walks over and in the most snarky voice possible says, "Me and my kids need to be seen." My response? Unfortunately, we only take patients until 10 p.m. and that time frame has passed. He responds saying that he was in the building before 10 p.m. Unfortunately, not as a patient, but as a companion to the people he was talking to in the lobby. So I offered to walk them out so I can lock the door behind them. I was out at 10:05 p.m. and happy as a clam. And yeah guys, thank you for watching. Please don't forget to check out my playlist on the left and I will see you again soon.